Well, we need one more, but, okay, we are technically one short of quorum, but we can, actually, we can't approve the minutes, but like, we can have I can give you my report. Mark can give you his report and we'll get going and hopefully somebody will walk in the next few minutes. So thank you everyone for showing up. This is CB2's Executive Committee meeting for October. I'm Susan Kent, CB2's chair. We cannot yet approve the agenda or the committee minutes, but I will go to the next item. I actually don't have much of a report. I wanted to just thank all of our committee chairs for sending in their capital and expense priorities to make this, this whole process possible. I wanted to let you know that the Borough President's Office is working on, at least we were told they are working on filling our empty slots. The holdup apparently involves the electeds and their choices, which haven't apparently come through the system. And I wanted to let everyone know that the training series is right around the corner. It's scheduled right now to run from the 28th of this month through November 1st. There are a total of 7 recording in progress. Was that not, did they not hear me?
That's me. It's me. It's me. I'm trying to mute it. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
we heard you.
And Valerie is here, and now we have a quorum.
All right.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
So let me just finish. Of course, the 3 required, the anti-bias, the equal employment, and the conflicts of interest classes are the required. They will be offering this year a new class on housing finance, and they're working on developing a leadership development course as well. And just to remind everybody, we're co-sponsors of the Halloween parade, which is the 31st. So please come in costume, ideally. And that's all I have to say. Mark? Oh, the treasurer. Okay, we'll do the treasurer's report. Yeah.
I didn't know. These are just expenses for the current quarter. We're looking good unless we're spending a lot on professional services this particular year.
No, nothing extra.
Yep.
Right now, the part-time person is replacing Francine, so there's no net change in the expenditure. Oh, and I don't know that we have heard from Francine in terms of an expected return date. Oh, but you'll mention that. Okay.
I think that's.
And that's it. Okay.
So I'm going to approach just to get closer to the microphone. So let me pick up where the chair left off. In your inbox, you should see a memo from me that has the calendar of trainings from the Borough President's Office. And if you scroll down, you'll see also offerings made citywide by the Civic Engagement Commission folks. Those are citywide trainings. As the chair said, the ones from the Borough President's Office, the ones that include the ones that are required. Okay, calendar updates. They're all in the calendar that we circulated, except that we have now added the likelihood of a second landmarks meeting in November, which will double up with, on that Monday, the 18th, it'll double up with cannabis. There are no committee member overlaps, so that seemed to be the right one to do. And it's possible that cannabis will choose to meet not at 5, but earlier in the day. So stay tuned for the timing on that. Tonight, of course, is DNS and budget priorities, and you have before you everything I could think of to give you, but if you need anything, give me a holler. With respect to there's a question about Francine. I've been in touch with her to wish her well and to hear about physical therapy. She has not mentioned, so I have not pushed on a return date. And our interim person, Fran, seems to be doing the same work in even a few fewer hours. So the budget impact is everything you could ask it to be. and I very much like his influence on the office, let's put it that way. Then the Halloween parade, the only thing I'll mention about the Halloween parade is that the staff is expected to hand out popcorn or some other way of supporting the event. So between 3 and 6 that afternoon, we probably will be outdoors again in costume with little children. Participatory budgeting. I just wanted to make a quick reference that while we're talking about the city budget, the council members are starting their participatory budgeting program. This is the time of year where they solicit ideas. Used to be in person, now it's mostly online. Later in the year, there will be opportunities to vet these proposals that come across. And then later in the year after that, they'll be voting. And this is different than the Civic Engagement Commission PB. Among other things, PB with the council members is capital money. PB at the citywide level is expense money. And there's lots and lots of issues, but we can talk about that some other time. So if you're interested in that, our e-blast has links to each of our 3 council members and their homepages on participatory budgeting. Unless there are questions. Seeing none. Thanks very much.
Okay, since I mentioned the calendar, I don't think we're going to have a problem. I'm not so much concerned about November in terms of full board because it's a full week ahead of Thanksgiving. So that I'm not so worried about us making quorum. My one concern actually is more about December. And because so many people are taking off that last part of the month, I am concerned about December. I don't know if anybody else shares my perspective. I'm just wondering if maybe it would be to our advantage to move full board up to the 17th, skipping an executive, but making it more likely that we will make quorum, unless people think that I'm over worried about quorum for December.
All right.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. If there's no objections to that, we're going to move December's full board to the 17th and skip executive that one. Anybody else have anything on the calendar for November or December? And we will be getting out the sort of skeleton for the beginning of the next year. We'll put one together so that you can do your planning as well. Yes, Will, I'm sorry, I just wanted to get.
Hey, I'm not sure there's a solution to this, but our meeting is the night before election day. There's a lot of very politically active folks on our committee. It may be tough for us to get a quorum there, but unless anyone has any ideas, I'm just looking at the calendar. I don't really see a better place to put it.
I tried to work on a better date, and it was really hard to find another date. We're going the day after, which a lot of our committee members think they're going to be tied up with their job somehow involved. They are going to be involved, but we looked at other dates from the 30th on. It was halfway through. There was really no other good date.
Yeah.
Look, it's tough. Sometimes these happen, but fortunately, what comes out of committee, even if it is an official committee resolution, as long as we have quorum at full board, then these resolutions will get voted on and properly in the end. And that's what we have to count on.
We'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
Can you put the CB2 holiday party on this? Oh, it's a public document, so.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah. But but the 9th is our, which we locked in a while back. So just so everybody knows. Okay. Yes, Brian, I'm sorry.
Joel says that he talked to you about our second landmarks meeting. Is that
We
settled on
That was, I'm sorry, wait a minute.
for November?
He put that in on the 18th. There is a split on that. Mark mentioned it, that you've got, there's no overlap between those two committees in terms of membership. So that's what we went with. And hope maybe cannabis won't end up having it'll have a light schedule, so it won't be so painful. Anyone else calendar issues right now? Okay, since we have a quorum,
December meeting,
I'm sorry?
for the December moving the full board,
Mhm.
they want to poll the board members because I'm just, that's a holiday party times, a lot of different things. You might have an opposite problem because people have, I'm just looking at it, it's so compact.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. The point is let's find out what's our better date. If
I just want to poll and say we're
Yeah,
moving this,
no.
anybody not make it.
Right,
Just-
no, that's very fair. Yeah, that's what
It's
we'll
a
do.
weird having it fall midweek.
I know. I know.
It's also been published, so people may have made plans or booked flights
True.
around it.
It's,
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think, yeah, it'd be great to have it earlier, but.
yeah, no, I mean, that's what I want to hear. If, it's like, but we will start talking about it now so that we will choose what is hopefully the better date. And I will let you know what people have to say. Okay, since we do have a quorum, the September committee minutes, does anybody have any changes or questions about them? Or is everyone okay with them? If not, I will take a motion to approve those executive committee minutes. And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's get to the budget priorities. Thank you, Mark, for putting together these packets. We've got, one is sort of the list of top priorities from each committee, and the other is the list the top, but all of them from each committee as they rank them.
I have a correction.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so mine, I had said it should be SBS, not DOT, because it's Small Business Services that has the financial calculator.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're the ones that would be giving those funds.
And so anybody have any corrections to this or changes to these lists before we start talking about them? Okay.
And these are exclusive of the top three, or the top three are also on this long list?
Okay, Mark, why don't you explain exactly?
Sure. So there are two documents that I've circulated. And I actually should recirculate them too, or I can put them up on the screen if that would be helpful for the folks at home. So there are two documents. One is the top capital and the top expense from each committee, on the theory that if your budget priority were to be one of the top three, it would probably come from your top priority. You don't have to, but that's my surmise. The other is a one to whatever list from each committee on a separate page, so you can spread them out if you are so led, of what each committee had recommended for budget priorities, separated into capital and expense. Quick footnote that not every committee had a capital priority. I think they all had expense priorities. So I hope that's useful. And land use came in this afternoon, so it's on the table here, but I just realized that the folks at home may not have it. So why don't I try to get that to the folks at home right now?
Got it.
Okay.
So is there a single page on land use in the deck?
It is it should be in the one with the paper clip.
Yeah.
Page 8 should be land use.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Okay. Well, since we've got this short list, I mean, who wants to recommend, the top three? I assume that we will choose our top three from this list.
So I'm gonna, if I could go ahead, the outdoor dining working group has one. The item that always comes up naturally, I think, with outdoor dining and the open restaurants program now dining on NYC is funds for enforcement. But actually the way that we prevent there being an issue is for us to have accurate drawings from the beginning at the start of the license process. And so that's why This came up as an idea at our meeting in October as there should be some sort of funding for restaurants to procure architectural services. Restaurants are not required to use an architect, and that was to ease so that there's more, it's less of a burden to the business to pay for, but there ends up being so many of these businesses and restaurants put together their financial model based on the seating and in the outdoor in combination with their indoor, and then they come and they realize that they have inaccurate measurements, or it's done in Microsoft Word and it's not accurate as to what is reality. And so we would just like to find a way to support these businesses so that we can review their applications faster and more efficiently, and so that they also can have accurate drawings for their own financial calculations. So I'd like to advocate for that one being in the top 3.
Anyone have any, I mean, based on the survey, homelessness and social services are clearly, you know, those were the top 2. And based on a lot of what's, you know, the mood in our community, I think it naturally leads us to, you know, the human services item on the list.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that too. You know, I think transportation is a tremendously important issue. I mean, our lives are constantly at stake in the streets. But when I see what's also going on in the streets, then I have to say I lean to what you're talking about.
Is there anything new we can add to that? Because the biggest problem we hear is people don't accept services.
It's a really,
That's the
Well,
problem. So what do we, you know, just repeating nothing without addressing that seems like we're missing the.
I had a question, and maybe I can, I mean, there was something in the broadsheet today, which I forwarded to Susan and Mark, and Mark's going to be meeting with someone next, not sure, but not today. It mentioned that downtown in FIDE, they've increased the number of people they've removed from the street and gone into housing. I don't know if it's permanent housing or temporary, and I don't know was it just more money, or was it, I just don't know what drove that, and that's the question. So obviously they've seen some success there, but I just don't know what it really means. It was the Downtown Alliance.
So the thing, and I think a couple of folks were actually at the Human Services meeting to discuss this. The thing we identified specifically is support funding for intensive mobile treatment teams. And this is something that repeatedly comes up when service providers come and speak to us about like, what is the best way to engage folks and get them to services, treatment, housing, et cetera. So this is something that we advocated for last year. And this is why it made its way into our top expense here. I think it doesn't solve that, to your point, where do folks go? It doesn't hit that point, but it does hit kind of the connection.
is it recognized sort of as like a first step towards getting people into some, I mean,
Yeah.
So we hear the feedback, which is interesting. I go to the 6th Precinct Community Council meeting. So over time, we hear that, you know, it's a great thing. We spent all this time trying to get one person to accept services. Then they accept it. And then a couple months later, it's too far away and they're back here and the issues are open again. So, and that's very separate from the crime-related things. So these are 2 separate issues and it's a real challenge. And I just don't know what we advocate for to get a change in that something. You know,
The experts say.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
they all know their name.
experts and service providers really point to the IMTs and also the ACT teams, which I'm failing to remember what that abbreviation is. I can look it up. But like, these are really intensive relationships that folks are trying to build. It's a really thorny problem. I think it takes a lot of time. And yeah, like Carter, your point is not a wrong one, right? Like how does it get sticky? But I think really folks do point to the potential for these programs to reach hard to reach populations. And so I guess that's kind of the project, the.
I see you, Katie. Don't, yeah, I'm just waiting for her to finish. Please go ahead.
Katie.
But you have to unmute yourself. We still, go ahead.
There we go. I just put a link in the chat because there was a fantastic article in today's Times about getting people off the streets in LA. And I think, was it Emma who was just talking about how long it takes? And it does take a long time, and it does take a lot of money. And so, you know, that capital need seems, you know, very important, and what we have to advocate for in order to solve the problem, along with what land use is suggesting, because we need places for them to live. So, hand in hand, I hope.
It's frustrating. We don't have better or newer ideas, and it is frustrating to keep offering the same suggestions, and we're not necessarily seeing change, or it's not making enough of a dent that people feel like the system is working.
I don't recall, what was their response to our request last year for the same thing?
Actually, I have it somewhere close at hand.
The number one request?
Yeah.
Number one request?
Yeah, I mean, it was no, but yes.
Yeah, because
I can't remember the rationale.
I mean, look, we could leave it there, that's great, but do we ask a different question? Because if they've deemed that we're not.
Or make them
We
say yes.
see this need, but they don't, then what? You know,
Sometimes though, we ask for things repeatedly, and eventually, you know, the tide turns, the environment changes, things that weren't considered now consider. I mean, I think we ultimately have to choose what we feel most strongly about. We can't just worry about whether or not we're going to get the answer we want. Yes, Frederica.
Well, apropos of that, when the land use committee met, we took a look at what we'd asked for and what the response had been. And we retooled some of our priorities to better reflect what we heard from them. So I think Eugene has the final language, but last year, the 2 Howard Street was in the top 3. And this year we have retooled it to ask for a job description to be created and a person to be designated to liaise with the federal government. So I feel that if it was in there last year, if it's dealing with housing, and if we can do a better job this time of putting them on the spot, that should be considered for the top 3 again also. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Eugene.
Yeah, and just to add, and thank you, Frederica, for bringing that up. I mean, just to add to that, I think the way that we've retooled it as asking for someone to be added to like their job responsibilities, or for them to hire someone, I think makes us stronger. And I think that, you know, we've been ignored in the past on 2 Howard, but we can't really let this opportunity go on by. I mean, that spot remains in our neighborhood as a prime place for us to put affordable housing. And we really do need to make a first move on this. So I'd like to advocate for our capital expense priority for that one as well. Thank you.
just on that one, because I don't know if I recall it being discussed exactly that way. They're going to turn around and tell us we have existing staff, and the intergovernmental person is already there to do that. And it's not like having a full timer on this is going to be realistic. So that, so.
Can I make a suggestion that we go to the other ones? Because unless somebody else is going to suggest another top 3, that's, I mean, we're not going to get any more information. We're in a vacuum here.
Right.
Do you want to see the response to last year's number 1? Should I put that up on the screen?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It was more detailed than just now.
Okay. It really is.
I just defer to, supports that are not IMT, are like approximately in the same issue space. We're in the same issue space, but.
So what we're asking for is for chronic conditions, right? And maybe the way we wrote it is not identifying that. Because the way it's framed here, if you were to read it in mobile, it seems like it's more of an emergency response, whereas we're looking for
Sustainable solution.
specific.
Could Carter get closer to a microphone, please? Carter, you're always.
A lot of people sound a little bit low. Unfortunately, we have a fan in the background.
Yeah, I just said that, maybe we just framed it wrong because the response is like it's an immediacy, whereas we're dealing with the long-term situation with individuals that are well-known. We're just looking for more services to provide it in a very targeted population. We just didn't write it that way. And there's a better way to write it. I think it's an important, but we don't reframe it, they're going to give us the same response. And I'm not sure our electeds are taking away from this. They already know it's important, so how can we help them? I mean, I thought, like the little bit I know about Eric's bill, that he had put forward about advocating for more response with the police department. I thought that was, if I'm remembering correctly, I thought that's the type of stuff that's actionable. But how do we have something that's maybe a little more actionable?
I mean, I think that's true of anything we put forward. We have to ask how actionable it is, how doable it is. So how would we rewrite this,
I think we could reframe it. I think we could provide additional color that states what IMT teams do. I mean, they are for chronic engagement in localized spaces. So that is like inherent in what that specific approach is. But I think we could spell that out a little bit more clearly for the purpose of.
Who's the response from?
This says original request was directed to OMB and may have been redirected by OMB to DOH&H. It suggests may have, so.
One agency, you get a response.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it's like.
Well, at least they sent it to the next agency instead of just telling us that,
straight up. No.
sorry, we don't do that. So that's something. It's kind of, I kind of feel like it's hard not to, this has got to be one of our three. It just, what people in our community are experiencing and what they're seeing. Absolutely, it's logical to tweak this and try to make it something fresh so that it is looked at in a new way, but
I agree. I have one.
Kind of hard not to.
Is it top 3 overall or top 3 capital?
Do we have top three of each, right?
No.
Oh, no.
It's top 3 overall.
List of top 3 district needs.
Because we should pull out the word capital in this. Okay.
Sorry.
That's why it's confusing. Okay. So this is an expense one.
Got it. And there's no, in the sense of if some are expenses, some are capital, they're all still, it doesn't matter.
That's correct, and that's what we did last year.
Got it. Okay. So if we have we have the human services one as one of our 3.
Patricia has her hand up.
I'm sorry, Patricia, please go ahead.
I also wanted to include the Bleecker School in our top 3. I don't see it listed. To fund and build the school.
Keep talking extracts, and I'm looking at the list right now.
It's page 3.
It's been in there the last several years. But it originally read as allocate funds for 100,000 square foot Bleecker Street School.
Come closer, come
I
closer.
thought we had discussed keeping it on the list, but maybe not top three, just so future board members don't forget about it, because it's not gonna happen this year.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that, with the, should we just say Bleecker School?
We should just move this to, but not top three.
No, it's,
I'm sorry,
I mean, with the extension of the lease on the supermarket, it's like that was basically telling us that they're not gonna be moving on the school.
no, they extended the option.
The
Doesn't
option.
matter, they extended the option for God knows how many years, but I would hate to see it not being on the list, because 7 years from now, so I want somebody to look at this and say it's time to push this, or 5 years from now, or whatever.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting it.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
Not as is it still as appropriate as a top three?
It is, I personally don't think so.
Because again, it's right,
What
Corder
are the
was right.
committee-
What is the most actionable that we can actually feel like we're going to see? Yes, these are really important, but yes, we might actually get movement.
In the past, we've just put up some of our top things on the screen. Maybe that's a better way to just get the stuff up so we can. Because we do the top 10, right? I mean, that's what we've always done.
We do more than the top 10.
Yeah, it's the top 20, right? And then after that, but we don't have anything up on the screen.
There's a number for each. There's a certain.
Yeah, we would just like, can we just go through these more quickly, get what's up?
Can I just ask a question? What did the committee vote for the top education one? Was it this one or was it something else?
I'm gonna look at my list, sorry.
I think
We had, for capital or for capital, we had allocate funds for technology for 30 laptops at Harvey Milk and Harvest.
If we're talking top three, it can be either one. It doesn't matter.
It's one item, yeah.
those are the top three, right? It was reduced, for capital, capital we did just technology improvements, but at 2 schools.
There's 6 things on this list. Where was Bleecker on that list? Would it be 7 or 2, or like there would now be 7 items on the capital list for schools?
It was 9, it was number 9.
There is no
7 and 8.
number 9.
Here, I'm saying, I don't know where 7 and 8
On
are.
our list.
There are no, there's right now the list has 6 expense and 6 capital plus Bleecker, so that would be 6 expense and 7 capital. And so on the capital list, I guess the question is, where did the schools committee rank it out of 7?
It wasn't in the top 7. We had it on the list. But it wasn't in the top 7.
What? Yeah. So why aren't they?
But you're advocating for or one of our top 3 being the tech improvements. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Which is actually a very actionable thing. I mean, it's very concrete and it's something that you can identify.
That Harvey Milk.
Harvey Milk and Harvest Collegiate.
Yeah, right.
So which is Harvey Milk?
It's on this one.
And where is
reversed?
Oh, no, I know,
Where's Harvey Milk High School
I have that.
located?
but what I'm asking is, I don't know anything about it. Oh, that's right.
It's a small high school, serving 9 through 12. There's 95 students now. It's tiny.
Harvest is too small.
Harvest is bigger.
Yeah, no.
Harvey City.
Okay.
See, what I don't,
So are
what
there,
what are the prospects for the Bleecker Street? Do you mean for immediate?
It's not gonna happen next year. I mean, I unless something, it's not,
Would be to me, the priority otherwise.
but it's not gonna happen next year because they extended the option. I don't have it in front of me, 10 plus.
at least, I forget, it's like 10 years. It's way down the road. And they did it precisely so that nobody had to deal with this situation.
Kick the can down the road.
Kick the can
Because
down the road.
obviously that's
Exactly.
really needed.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not happening now, so we shouldn't waste it on the top three.
Let's, exactly, where do we get the, how can we like bring something home? So.
I mean, I would love to, again, advocate for something that I think actually probably would get funded, which is architectural services to support our small businesses.
So right now, we have this is one, the human services, the mobile treatment, the tech from the schools. That's 1, 2, 3, any others that we want to,
We had 2 Howard on this list.
and 2,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Did we,
That's a homeless, that we, housing.
the question is that the idea of creating another liaison, is that really a,
Yeah, I think this is real. I mean, it's a real property and,
Well, nobody's saying it's real property, but we're not asking it the right way. We're asking to hire a new person, that's not gonna happen.
oh, wait, I'm sorry, for 2 Howard?
2 Howard,
That's gonna be-
that's why, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't sound,
I'm sorry, I'm confused about,
I'm not saying it shouldn't be up there.
it
I'm just
sounds like
saying-
we're just inflating bureaucracy.
got it.
Yeah.
So what is Carter's idea of what it should say?
Well, what I do know is I know what the response to this will be is we have intergovernmental staff and that's who deals with it.
Right, but let's think of another way of doing it,
I didn't
because
see,
if you
I'm missing the
recall,
word hire on here. It's not on this sheet. Am I?
if you recall, when Janine brought it up
Oh,
to Chuck
we can't talk
Schumer,
over one another. I'm sorry. Frederica, please,
Page 8 on the bottom.
Got it.
Frederica, please start again so I can hear you.
Sure. If you recall, when Janine brought it up, when Chuck Schumer attended our meeting, he was like, oh yeah, sounds like a great idea. So what, in light of that, how should we reframe it? I don't think that we were necessarily having in mind to hire somebody new. It was to create a job description and then designate somebody to move it forward,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah, Will,
So forget the job description part and just say, move this forward.
What about if we have them asked to conduct a study and advocate for what steps would be needed taken to transfer to Howard to the city for that purpose? I mean, that's an actionable.
You don't need a study.
Exactly.
But
What if
no,
we
but
just said,
the
transfer
study
to
with the-
Howard?
No, the study is to study how it would be done. It is not to study whether it should be done. What are the steps? Then you have a basis upon which you can advocate for, but you're trying to put it into a capital item, which means you have to spend money, right? I mean, so it's like, how do you transfer that into a line item?
Okay, I'm sorry. Katie has her hand. You still have your hand? Do you have hand up, Katie? Is your hand up right now? I want to.
Yes.
Go ahead, and then I'll.
I want to go back to we're trying to figure out how to move to Howard forward. Last year, we had it on our list and nothing happened. So the committee was grappling with suggesting something that might be the next step. And if that's what our thinking is. What's the next step? Get someone assigned to making it happen. I think that's the impetus behind what we're saying. You know, Carter is saying, well, how does it happen? How does it get transferred from the feds to the city? We're trying to find we don't know what the actionable item is, but we were searching for an actionable item, I would say. And if Eugene can correct me if he has something different to say.
Yes, Valerie.
What are we doing in between the budget request of 2 Howard? Like, are we having meetings with intergovernmental affairs in the mayor's office, or like, how do we move it forward through the year? I'm just curious because I don't know.
I've had some conversation offline, and that's why I'm saying this quietly. The first step is the federal government has to sell it to the city, and it could be sold at below market rate based on the federal guidelines for disposing of federal property. So I would just say, I would address it to Deputy Mayor Springer Torres work with our federal officials to move forward with the purchase or transfer to Howard to New York, from federal ownership to New York City for affordable housing.
The capital request is the funds to do that, is to acquire the property.
Yeah. And that, I'm happy to write that down
Yeah.
and work on
Yeah,
that.
I think that makes sense.
That's,
Because that's exactly that's where we want to be heading. I'm sorry, somebody else have their hand up? Eugene, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, Will, did you have, I don't want to miss anybody if they were on the screen. Oh, okay. Okay, so right now we have 4 items for our top 3 list. Which are the mobile treatment from Human Services. We have the technology improvements from Schools and Ed. We have the funds for architectural services from Outdoor Dining, and we have the to Howard, the funding for the purchase. Yes, Eugene.
I would like to add another one, if that's possible.
You may,
One
of course.
of our expense priorities, and I apologize, we didn't rank these on our list. So that's apologies from our committee, but it is number 3 on our list, which is to ask the Department of City Planning to do an analysis and do a study of the effectiveness of the Hudson Square rezoning from 2013. We believe enough time has passed that the city can do an analysis to see how much housing has been produced, compare that to what was promised in terms of the number of units of housing, how many affordable units, what was created in terms of commercial space versus residential. We would like to hold the city accountable, and based on that, have some suggestions for how to correct, if necessary, the Hudson Square rezoning, as it's currently still ongoing. But we feel enough time has passed that the city can do an analysis of the data. We felt very strongly as a committee that this is something important that the city do. So I want to suggest that this is something we review at exec.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, I just have to say that if it's the top 3, I don't know that we can have 2 from land use. To be fair. I mean, unless it's really people feel like both of those are compelling enough. I mean,
I will say, not to say that these 2 should, but I will say that this is the top goal of every single elected official right now.
Right.
It is on their top messaging from the local all the way up. So to put forward anything, I don't think is.
I knew you would know the answer.
I mean, every single elected we have is talking about this right now.
Right.
Not just because the city of Yes, city council right now, from the top of the ticket all the way down.
I mean,
politics on both parties.
Personally, I think that this one, studying the rezoning, is actually maybe more important or more likely to get action taken on it because of the nature of what we're asking for in terms of.
Doubt it, but it's a thing to ask them to do.
Well, there is something to be said. If this is what our electeds are all talking about, that there's impetus behind it. I'm so sorry. Somebody had their hand up. Was it you, Will? Yes, Will. Go ahead.
I had mine up. I don't think, what, it's okay. I'm not going to fight for top 3. I do think we should still have near the top something around Hudson River Park, but I think it's tough to find. It's tough to still figure out what agency is going to take responsibility for that, if there is sort of a comprehensive study.
It would be city planning.
Yeah.
For which? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, just the resiliency study.
Oh.
Yeah. It's all right. You know what? I don't think it has to be top 3, but we can come back to it.
Yeah, well,
That's why I'm saying we don't have a list that we're moving around, which we've had.
I know, we don't. Yeah, would you? Okay.
I'd like to, the outdoor dining, I don't think is top 3, so if you could, I think within.
But it'll be top 10.
But I think in top
The top, okay.
5. Because it affects quality of life and water.
So let's move this.
Okay. These are the ones that we've got. Okay, I guess let's hear from people. What are they?
We've had, from Shirley Traffic, we usually have a couple in the top 10, right? What-
Yeah.
what's-
Yeah, but
what's-
you know, like, here's these. And I, of course, feel any traffic issue is important in terms of human lives, crossing the street, but these are kind of.
Well, surely, we certainly can have something in the top 10. It doesn't, may not be a top 3. So, if, you know.
We've gotten a lot of the bike lanes and the big things.
Yeah, I feel like you're, yeah.
It's a good,
Right.
yeah.
And
that's
they
a
really
good-
are intended.
When something is top 3, it's not also in that's separate.
And that's why it's.
No, it's always one of the ones that's in the top.
I think.
Okay.
I mean, you ought to be
On there a lot.
Oh, I don't, but I don't know if it's not.
Petrosino Square.
Three.
Oh, not top 3, but top 10.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Rich, go ahead.
There's a second,
Okay.
the second highest priority, it did make the top priority list, but the second highest priority, Parks and Waterfront, I think is worth considering as a top priority. Let me read it. It's summarized on page 2 of the multi-page document. It says that we allocate funds to repair the playground and the pathway between the field at JJ Walker and the playground and courts, recognizing that a master plan for the full block may result from the process of reconsidering the space currently occupied building that is Tony Dapolito Center. It's a smaller project, it's a tangible project, it's a space that's underutilized because it's not in good shape right now. The playground's important to people, the young kids. It's kind of a give to people who say they can't get to Dapolito and use that, but maybe they can use the courts and the playground.
Are you advocating that as a top 3 or a top 10?
I'm loath to put our top one on, because when we submitted this in September, lots happened. I think it's a waste to try to put the top parks one on, but I think the second.
I think you're right.
I don't want to debate that, but the second one I think is a little bit more tangible. And we might get some good will from the neighborhood. But.
Okay, so I guess looking at that list, which ones do we, it's everybody who wants, which ones do we want to bump down?
I think we still need to add the street activities and resiliency one.
Mark, can you add numbers to that, just so we can refer to them? Like move one down or whatever the case may be.
And again,
And this is capital right now?
Well, this is top 3. There, it can be either
Got it.
one, and
Okay.
then we will have the top 10 of each.
But should it, I mean, for the debate, should it tie to these priorities in the survey?
It should, I think, certainly consider them.
Okay. Yeah.
I
mean, that's just my take on it. It kind of, isn't that what people expect?
Yeah, assuming they were doable.
Weren't we supposed to have the study of Hudson waterfront resiliency? Isn't that, didn't Will ask for that?
Not as a top 3, but
I was
as
saying,
a.
it doesn't have to be a top 3.
No, but as a top 10, because I think we were putting everything on this list and then juggling it, no?
Okay, right now, well, if we're going based on what it's called, if we're adding more to consider top 3, certainly.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought we were.
It may be on a number 2 or 3 on a top 10 list.
I don't think the architectural services should be top 3.
Let's just get the most important things on this list and then we'll.
Okay.
take the order.
Can we just note which are, so number 1
Is there anything somebody says is truly important, they really, that is not on that list right now?
You can just move it
Well,
down.
just so you know, in the past, we've had 20 or 30 items, then we just moved them around. So,
Like a
just,
one-
like, let's just
But
get
let's
them up
have
there,
top
what's
three and then
important.
move on to capital because
Yeah.
it's right confusing. So we have humans, the mobile trucks, tech for schools, and acquired to Howard.
So the architectural services will be like a top 10, but it won't be a top 3.
Yes, and that's, it moves to expense, correct?
And that will be an expense, one of the top ones. Okay. So we've got human services, we've got the schools, we've got, the question is, do we want to make 2 Howard? Or do we want to look at the study of Hudson Square?
Put them both on there.
Okay, no, they are, but I'm just saying, does anybody want to advocate for one over the other? Right now, is there anything else that somebody wants to add to that list before we?
Yeah, I prefer to Howard over, I am very aware of the flaws of the Hudson Square rezoning, but that was a private applicant, Trinity Real Estate. So I can't imagine the city, given how connected they are, reopening that and changing anything unless Trinity Real Estate requests it. So I think intellectually, we kind of know 90% of the answers.
Well, it didn't achieve its goal.
It didn't
That's what
study- but
we're
we're
asking to be
studying
done.
Because we're expecting to change it, or are we studying it to show what went wrong so that it's a cautionary tale?
Well, it goes back, I mean, the genesis of this, just so everybody knows, the Municipal Art Society came to CB2 in 2019, late 2019 or early 2020. And they did this study, it was the tale of 2 rezonings and where rezonings fail. And it was in Long Island City and downtown Brooklyn. And neither went at all in the direction that they had planned for after a certain number of years. So the idea is here, we've had such a massive change in the city's environment. And so where do these rezonings go? Because the goals stand forever. So if you don't go back and adjust them, you can't adjust them to the larger city's goal.
And
So
the
that's
city
what
did
we're
look at
asking
the
them.
Bloomberg rezoning.
Yeah.
I think we have it on the list,
So-
not top 3. And meanwhile, I think we should go and ask MAS to do a study because they could do it much faster.
So don't waste one of our asks if you can get it from.
It fits into the political ask, and then the political ask is when people keep asking us to produce more housing within our.
And I think that's why I think it's.
These are the areas that we have tall buildings, that it's not complicated, and we'd rather, instead of having corporate block-wide corporate headquarters built, we'd rather see those spaces better used for housing. And there's still underdeveloped parcels there that are in the mix in the next 10 years, for sure. And so without a discussion, if it doesn't happen sooner, it's just most likely going to lean where most of the development has been there. So that's why it's of interest to some people.
Okay, let me get, Chenault has joined us, so I will call on him first and then Frederica.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to jiggle 2 meetings, but I have only one thing to say, and I think it should go in the top 10 with the modification I'm suggesting. It has to do with the parks resolution, and it's a landmark matter, but it's not a landmark budget item. And that is to add to the resolution as it is that to restore the building and adapt the interior to accommodate essentially the services that existed before it was closed and restore the existing pool and so forth. It's simply adding the building and the programming for the building into the existing resolution. And if that were done, I suggest it for the top 10.
Yours?
Something about that.
Yeah, no, I know he's talking about Japolito. Oh, you say resolution, you mean as a proposal?
I'm proposing that the budget request be modified in this way. And the reason is that as it is, it doesn't speak about the building, which was the subject of a resolution by the board in the July meeting, and then the subsequent testimony that we heard in the when was it, end of September forum with the public.
Okay,
And the imminent, whatever may be decided, makes it a somewhat urgent matter.
okay. And you're proposing this, okay, so. Clear.
And I know it's awkward, I'm proposing a modification of someone else's budget item and to move it to the top 10.
And put definitely on top 10.
Well, yeah, well, right now, since it's part of, it's a top 10 on right now, so it would remain in
Okay,
that position.
then to add this to it so that it comports with the resolution and with the testimony from the public at the forum.
Okay, Rich?
That's all.
We separated it.
Please, Shirley,
No, just, we separated, when we wrote this in, it's been summarized for the list. We said, we started with our community requires a rec center and outdoor pool. That was the start. We recognized that Tony Dapolito Rec Center has been closed for many years. We didn't, at the time, we said, we're not sure if it's salvageable or able to be repaired, or that the cost is worth doing. So that's what we said in before your landmarks resolution. We separated into two things. We said that in terms of a rec center, Community Board 2 has passed a resolution asking the new proposed affordable housing at 3A, include a New York City Parks Recreation Center with at least 3 floors at the base of the footprint. Our capital request was to deliver on that quest, but we weren't sure if funding was going to be required from the city because we thought that the chosen developers of the new building might provide the funding for the rec center themselves in their proposal. That was our take on 388. If they need funding to complete that work at 388 of a rec center, we think there should be funding. However, on the other side, we just said, we left it, we didn't talk about the building. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said the outdoor pool and the mural need to be preserved and protected or replaced. That, the pool needs to be replaced. We did not talk about the building itself. Right. So what he's saying now is, since we submitted this, Landmarks has brought to the full board a resolution, and it was passed, asking to, what did Landmark say? Not, was to repair the building, not to demolish it. Without anyone knowing the budget, for doing that, or the viability for doing that, or.
I heard that imperfectly, but I'm not making so much a Landmarks.
Around the top 20.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have posed that as a question. Should all remind me, did the Landmarks resolution specify that a rec center be there, or did it just say not to demo the building?
I'm combining the resolution, and the resolution is the building.
Okay. Yes.
And I'm adding the other based on the testimony from the public at the forum, which was, if one reads that carefully, the conclusion is that the public does not separate. Everyone practically who spoke about saving the building with the programming inside it.
That's not what.
And so it's to comport with those two, the record and the public testimony, which is why both are included.
Susan, can I speak to that now?
Okay, are you finishing all? Then I'll go ahead.
Yes, I think so, unless there's some question.
Okay, go ahead, Frederica.
Thank you. So I had two things. One is that I thought it might be more helpful for us to do the top 10 capital and the top 10 expense, prioritize them, and then see what rises to the top.
Yeah, because we're bouncing back.
And the other thing is that I'm reading from the resolution, the Landmarks resolution from September. And it says, ensure the building remain under city ownership and devoted to a civic purpose. So to go beyond what we voted on doesn't seem appropriate at this time. We should
Okay.
use the language from our resolution. Our resolution didn't say that the building should be restored as a rec center. It says remain under city ownership and devoted to a civic purpose.
I hold that that is increased by what we heard from an enormous number of the public.
We did hear that, but we didn't vote on it.
I know that. We will subsequently vote on something in due course.
Right.
And just to be clear, we've never voted not to have it be a recreation center, which is what it's supposed to be and what it is now.
You mean
I'm
like,
trying to speak practically.
No, Capitolito's never been voted to be something else. It's what it is. Like we're saying suddenly we can't say what it is because we said it's something else. We haven't.
No, but we also said that there'd be a rec center across the street.
Well, we said both, and Frederica says we didn't, but everybody on the land use committee has said that they expected both to be rec centers.
Just saying, she's just reading the.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that that's in the past,
Right,
that's.
the landmarks, I mean, the land use committee never voted on that either, so. I'm
On
just saying,
what?
for these purposes, we should stick to what the board has actually voted on.
Right, that Tony Dapolito is a recreation center, that's the standing use there.
I think we're gonna waste, forget about wasting time right now. I think we're gonna be wasting a chance to get some capital because this is gonna be decided whether we put it on our list. That was why I thought it was pragmatic to not put it on here because I'll write you what the response right now.
Yeah.
Can I ask Rich, one of the possibilities you said was for the developer to contribute some part of the funds, but it would still not be the total fund.
We don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
the RFP, the RFP's going out, proposals will come back. We're not sure what.
That's the
I go
problem,
along
there's
with you.
so
From
much
my
that's
point of
unknown.
view, This is a potential do.
But does that create a problem because there's so much in play and there's so much that's unknown right now? Can we make this a concrete enough?
Well, yeah, what do we call concrete?
It seems to be an issue.
88 Hudson is.
Well, Frederica did have the good, we should be talking about our top tens for each capital and expense. Do we want to start with a list of, like, say, the top two from each of the committees, putting that together as a list, and let's maybe
just capital.
Okay, one at a time.
Capital or both?
Well, you will have a top 10 of each, but let's start with
But
the
isn't that
capital.
what this list is, right?
Well, these, if you look at this.
Matching.
Oh, got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Has this been settled, Susan?
I don't think so. But we're
Well,
going to
that's a
try to
good
let's put together the list and then let's see where, it's a question of you're making a recommendation for
I didn't put my glasses on.
a parks item. The question is, do people support that? I mean, it's,
But what item? I don't know what we're looking
it
at.
is.
What's on the table here?
Yeah, well, we don't.
If I may, I would like to read the last sentence of the report, which is what will eventually inform the resolution that the Landmarks Committee does. It says, "It is one thing, a community recreation center, the building and the programs indivisible, and they want their building and their programs back, and soon," they being the people who testified. That is not ambiguous or a technicality. That is what is the public have said.
Yeah, it's so clear, Chanel, you really should have put it in the resolution.
Okay. We'll come back to this. Let's start with putting together a list of capital top tens.
Just capital.
Just capital. Okay. If we take the top two of each of these lists, or that one of them has just one, Where does that bring us?
I'm happy to do a running document if somebody wants to allow me to screen share.
Absolutely. Wait a minute.
We just flip through this and everybody just mark off what we should be theoretically considering.
Yes, yes,
Not in any order,
yes.
just narrow this
Okay.
down.
I'll gladly make the list and just call them out as you want.
So just starting.
Well, let's let, give Jimmy ability to go,
Should have.
access.
I do? Okay, I'm gonna start.
Let's just go through these in order without the numbers meaning anything just yet.
Yep.
Okay, so, for human services, we had, their number one capital was the facade of the door. That's the only capital expense they had. Okay. From parks, the capital number one was Chapelito, the 388, funding and the preservation of Chapelito. And, right. And number two was JJ Walker. From schools, number one, okay, is this order on schools correct in terms of reducing the hiring of teachers is your number one still?
That's expense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's expense.
My eyes are not working well.
We had
Number-
technology.
Technology improvements, and then the upgrade at Chelsea Career and Tech.
At two schools, Tech at two high schools.
Oh, and Tech High School, I'm sorry. Traffic, we have the Granite Strip bike lane.
No, never go to expense.
No,
Oh,
that's capital.
Sorry.
So we've got the Granite Strip and the Belgian block repair on Bond Street. We have no capital from outdoor dining, and landmarks has the staff for applications and, that's also expense. Street activities is all expense. And then land use is 2 Howard. That's the only capital.
Yeah, may not be capital.
Well, it depends. If we're talking about the funding of the purchase, that's capital.
Absolutely.
And that gives us how many?
That gives us 7.
Okay, well, then let's go down, and that was 1 and 2, so who has, who else, additional capital for that list? Who was anyone want to call out any from these that haven't been yet mentioned?
The Parks Department, the Elizabeth Street Garden.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh, let's go back to.
Yeah, I mean, considering, do we want to make that, is that a realistic thing to put into play in this?
No, there's a
Not
deal
done
on the
yet.
table until, what we had discussed, at the committee level that, until it's, bulldozed, it's an option.
We could always,
And, that's, because there is a deal, I mean, if, for those of you who've been following it in the press, there's a deal on the table with several private sites that are privately owned, that are going to be moving forward with 100% luxury housing, and with an upzoning, they would be able to build both luxury housing and the affordable housing that is proposed for the Elizabeth Street Garden site. And that has been presented to Deputy Mayor Springer Torres and Mayor Adams, and it's just sort of sitting out there.
And it's consistent with the board's position on what we'd like to see. Being
I mean, then maybe this is a
other
great,
areas in our community, which is better ways of thinking about development.
well, this may be a great time to put it in, so let's if there's no objections, add it to the list.
Yeah, it says allocate funds for the permanent preservation of the Elizabeth Street Garden in its entirety. Department of Citywide Administration.
It's actually now owned by, city-owned land. I would just change it to
Right,
city-owned land. It's now held by
city-owned.
HPE.
Good one. It's.
You can transfer it from agency to agency with a letter. So it's not a big process.
We have several, okay, we have two more spots for capital. We've got a number of things on the schools list, any particular ones people may want to consider. And we've got, I'm sorry, go ahead, Patricia.
What about adding Chelsea Career and Technical School and in New York I School, they want an upgrade to their gymatorium? They're in the same building. They share the same building, those two schools.
Didn't we already, we already have that on the list.
Yeah.
No, that was for, that's a separate one. We're just, people are not familiar with the technologies at Harvey Milk and Harvest Collegiate. I'm gonna put that in.
Right.
And then she's saying a gymatorium upgrade at a different school. It's actually.
There's two, there's Chelsea Career and Chelsea.
And actually, I would say it's Chelsea Career and Technical High School and NYC High School, both. NYC High School, they share that building.
It's one building.
One building shared by two schools.
You should keep them on the list because traditionally we've always used those types to fill out the top 20 with the schools because of their obvious importance. So we can work around the others, but we've always.
Oh, no, I thought we had called that, we had already added that one, that's why. Okay, so let's add that one, and we have one more slot. One more capital slot where we got capital, we have another traffic one, I believe. Which, did we?
Well, the Belgian block.
The reconstruction of Clarkson Street?
Yeah, the reason that we didn't put that in is because it can't be done, there's other construction going on there.
Yes.
Well, considering that most of the items we're looking at are expense, then I guess schools is the next, we go back to our list of schools. Patricia, recommend one for us.
Yeah, right.
Well, we just take them in this order?
Well, once we have the list, we can always move them around. It's easier.
What would you add?
What do you think?
Patricia?
Unmute yourself.
Is the upgrade for?
What about adding, from our list, number 8, allocating funds for the D75 school at 75 Morton? They wanted a multi-purpose recreational space for their students.
Okay, but right now we've already got 11. Are those?
I'm sorry, that's not on this list. I mean, maybe this.
I thought we're doing our top 10s.
Oh.
Is there a number 8?
Sorry?
Sorry, is there a number 8? It looks like it only goes to number 6.
Everything on that ends up being 50. So we usually typically we've organized the top 20. I'm not saying no, just, it can move down the list.
At this point, we can add on all the remaining capital. We don't have nearly as many capital. So all the remaining capital on schools can just be added to the list.
Thank you,
Yeah, but Patricia, I'm confused because you're mentioning things that are not on the list in front of us.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering which is, we have the correct list.
There's only 14 capital items.
Right. Right, that's what I'm saying.
We just put them all on there.
Patricia's referencing a number 8 and 9 that's not on here.
Total.
I'm just saying in her schools and ed, she's got more that's than what's listed on this list. So we're not sure what she's looking at.
Right.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, the list that Mark sent around, Patricia, it only goes up to number 6 on schools and eds for capital.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. We were just wondering where the 8 and 9 were.
For 388 on Parks, that's the park side, not the open space, right?
388 is the water.
It's the rec center.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say the open space, like the Hudson Houston Plaza, they are seeking the Hudson Square bid is seeking $867,000 from New York State for the Hudson Square New York Forward Fund, which also includes money for more of the amenities that are in there, including lighting the big mural. But that, I think that was in their presentation to us.
So I'm sorry, how
Not to
many,
dissuade on this, but just to offer this group that information.
Carter, how many choices are on the capital list?
I think they're only,
And you can, or get, Mark,
Last year's one?
no, I'm just looking at this one,
Oh,
the paperclip one.
no,
Heck of a better-
the city list, how many does it allow us to do?
I think it's 20, we're allowed to.
25.
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, that's what I'm
Huge
saying. At
list.
this point, let's add any other capital ones that we've got
So
I-
then, and what about,
Saying there's only a total
Yeah.
of 12 on.
on here.
So,
So we might as well, if Patricia, if you've got more capital ones, we might as well add them.
I put them all in here. There's 14.
all right, 14.
Janine, were you gonna add the Bleecker Street School? Because did you put that in?
That's number 14. Yeah, you guys, it's on. Let me make it-
Right now, that list has all of the capital items that are
There
on
it
this handout. So if there are any more,
well, Patricia,
that if you have any more, Patricia, or anybody else has any more that are not on this, now's the time. We've got the states, got the slots, we might as well add them.
And,
From last year? Is there anything from last year?
well, what are the capital ones that are missing? 'Cause-
Yeah,
Okay, can you give me the last three? Just text them.
We have allocate funds to upgrade windows.
Number 10.
PS 130, I have them.
Is allocate funds for Manhattan School. for
I have that.
And then allocate funding to support high school that is funded and built to serve the educational needs of our community. With particular focus on the possibility of developing, this is.
Can you
this is
just,
Bleecker School. This
Yeah.
is what was in the resolution.
right, well, that's
can
already.
you just text that to me and I'll just, or just email me all 9 of those because I don't, just easier to, yeah,
Okay.
this list seems off, it's off.
I think we have all of them, all the ones, the top ones. We have all of the ones that we've identified. The only question is, does anybody want to move any of those around?
Yeah, because right now they're sorted,
Sort of by committee, right?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think the schools are very important. We should perhaps just move the traffic stuff to the bottom.
well, the Morton Street bike lane, I'm gonna say is, I mean, it is right by Morton Street, it is right by several of our schools, and for kids to bike to school right now, you can't bike on Morton Street safely. And the Belgian block on Bond Street, frankly, I can't understand why the city isn't repairing that, because just, it's a slip and fall through New York City scenario.
They've budgeted money for settlements.
It's
And
cheaper to
that's-
settle, it's cheaper to settle than it is to repair the street, is that what you're saying?
Well, that's exactly how businesses decide, whether or not to make changes.
Send me the list, I email.
Okay,
Well, I'm gonna just pull up this list from Mar and make sure I have everything.
I mean, we don't have to have 25, if
I
we
know.
don't actually have 25, but this is an opportunity to add.
Let me get this. Oh, we don't have are these in order, Mar? Priority, the 1 through 9 for capital?
Yeah, we put them in order in the.
Yeah, 'cause-
Sorry.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at them and they're like, some of number 2 isn't on, after, the chain link fence is not on here.
Dentist that called me. Damn it. Oh, please.
Yeah, the technology was wrong.
Yeah, okay, I got that, okay. And then you have the gymatory and the sensory gym. Oh, new library.
Yeah, for Broom Street. It's in the chat, Janine.
I got it.
Fix it, and I have to go back, and it's like. Like to save the truth, so. Oh, yeah, please. But I gotta say, nobody does better dentistry than NYU. It's funny, I mean, I went there. Really, spring. Okay, where are we?
I mean, if we're looking to add capital.
Well, we,
As
look,
long as the
this
continuing
is our list, we
support.
might as well, we've, assuming we have 25 slots, this is a question of if there was something from last year, this was the opportunity.
Clark Station will definitely get done by DOT when that construction, there's heavy construction going on there right now. So do we put it in, we put it in continuing support because we want to hold on to it for future requests. But if we're putting in
Hold on.
bigger, that's the same.
I think I already did it, but hold on.
So why not put in Clark?
Okay, you have all the school, the ones.
Yeah, I have all the school stuff. So the question is, do we want to rotate? We have 16 things.
And realistically, which ones, below a certain point on the list, it's just like, it's there as a wish more than anything, I think. Ooh, that's not.
Last year's capital at only at 15.
Okay. Sometimes less is more, but we've got these already.
Yeah.
A lot of these were on there. Another, allocate funds to explore funding and building green infrastructure within CB Board 2.
That's a little.
Yeah.
That was.
Okay.
Sure.
This is a pretty good list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And frankly, I personally, if you keep adding things just for the sake of adding it, doesn't help us. So the only question is, are people good with this order? Well, let's wait until,
Yeah, sorry, there we go. I got it.
Okay.
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 Right now they're grouped by thing. Should we just move them around? I mean, we have our top three, which I don't think will change. So I don't want to mess with those, but do we want to, so we have a park. Shall we move a school? We move a TNT and a school. Should we just rotate them like that and just keep it simple?
That's all depends on how strongly.
I'm going to show you what that would look like.
I wonder if, Patricia, you'd advocate for any of the school items to be moved up. I think otherwise.
We have two in the, we already have number 1 and numbers 9 are in there. So, let's,
So this would basically just rotate through the committees. Actually, and did we want the door facade? Actually, did we agree that would be our top 3 in terms of capital? The facade of the door.
I'm gonna say, I don't know that I really feel strong. I don't, somehow that just doesn't feel right to me.
I would kind of agree with that, and the door gets tons of money.
Tons of money,
So what do we want to move to our top 3 for capital? Do you want to do the Dapolito or JJ Walker? What is your preference, Mark? Or I'm gonna suggest things that are popular. I'm gonna go Dapolito, I'm gonna talk
feel that way.
Walker, or the top, number 2 thing was the chain link fence at, I mean, these are the top 3 for the, and then TNT. So these are our top, I guess the question is, what would we want to move to top 3?
I have a question.
Why is it 2 hour number 1?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So number 4, rec center, pool, mural, Dapolito. Why are all together. Is.
Mark, and get Margaret closer to a mic, because
That was how it was.
you're very metallic. Your voice is very
So
metallic.
I am reading right now, summarized, rec center, pool, mural, Dapolito, but those are all different items. They are not one item.
Can we just read what Parks wrote?
But that's fine, but in an ask, they are not something that is, that are funded together. Do you understand?
This is not.
They're not, they're different asks. So I feel like preserve the mural and pool or rebuild the pool is one, right? That's Dapolito, that's one property. And then separately.
Or that's the exterior of by Dapolito. Then there's
Right,
the
and then
center
separate,
itself.
I mean, this is an entirely different property. They have nothing to do with each other. So I don't understand why the funding is being grouped.
Yeah, those 388 doesn't have to be separate.
The 388 has always been separate. The disagreement is not funding 388.
My other question.
Preservation of the pool at the Dapolito Center, and that's also not inconsistent. It's just, I mean, they're separate items.
So what's the actual?
No, it's not a question of being, but if you list them as.
But is that a capital item? Is preserving and replacing a capital? I don't know. I'm just, is that an expense?
Valid question. What is the capital request?
Yeah.
5 years.
Capital request for 388 is to fund the build out of that space.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Capital is defined in terms of its the size, the amount of.
$50,000 in a useful life.
5 years.
There you go. It's capital.
So both of them.
So,
But
I'm sorry. So I thought, didn't I hear that the rec center at 388 was being, wouldn't the developer pay for that? Why are we asking?
No, the developer with the core and shell, the city would pay for it, but it's already funded. I think we pull
If it's
off.
already funded, why are we putting it?
I'm
here?
sort of inclined that we pull off the one in orange.
It looks very weird.
I would remove that. I'm just suggesting that because it's not a real, and then this would be.
but also that one, I mean, that's like, that's taking care of the property.
Yeah, that's
I
what,
mean, that's a little. No, but I mean, even well, I guess replacing the pool, but.
what do we want to do? Well, preserve, replace outdoor pool at Dapolito and preserve Keith Haring Barrel.
So that's also very complicated, right? Because we have a problem where all the facilities are to maintain that pool. The whole thing has to be.
We're not trying to, we're not.
I mean, it's like, it's not a. Yeah,
I think so. I think it is more of a statement than anything else.
Okay.
Because it's not real, it's not, you can't say fix the pool without say fixing the building.
Okay, can I
So
suggest we
because
move
it's infrastructure
JJ Walker
of the
to
pool is in the building.
I think JJ Walker is looking for like a realist, in terms of its realistic. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to ask about the door facade. Does that mean the whole front of the building, the facade of the building?
I missed, I
think
don't
of
know.
the door in terms of the importance of the door as the services.
Yeah.
To the expense, of course. So does facade really merit being that high up?
That's a really good question.
But we just did the
But the
committee
maintenance
first.
of the space is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear what the problem was, but I doubt they're doing it for cosmetic reasons.
Yeah, it's gotta be structural to do it.
Yeah. So if they don't have their space and they have to
Just
use
compelling.
their fundraising to do that, it takes away from their
Right.
programming.
Right. You know, just remember, we put those on the list in this order. Shirley, that's why we're moving them around. We put them on the list based on the order they were on each committee's list. That
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
compel us to keep them there.
But I was questioning, but Carter explained, I think, that it probably is not much broader.
It's deceptive to use the word maybe facade. But that's true. I mean, if you say that if the door is got good funding, is that what we want to? in the sense of they get funding from many sources. It's not to say that we don't want it there, but yeah, it should be a little further down the list, maybe.
Okay, so,
That's to your left.
okay. Who is here who's on the Human Services Committee? Okay, so tell us.
I can tell you about it.
Yes.
They're undergoing a capital project to restore the facade. They hired folks to take a look at masonry and unit repair. They uncovered asbestos issues. They're looking to complete this in the year because.
Who owns the building?
I don't know who owns the building. Let me see what they say. I'm not sure who owns the building. They're contracting with a number of organizations to fix the masonry and remove the asbestos and
It's
monitor
already
the
happening.
quality. I think that they are looking to do it. They're currently, my understanding is it has not begun yet. They
But is
have
it funded
maintained-
or at least somewhat funded?
They don't indicate if it's funded. They're
You
seeking
say
funding
that
to
it-
support these critical and necessary capital renovations.
It says unavailable owner.
Would you say that'd be a better way than to phrase it than just say door facade?
I mean, I
Which
think,
sounds pretty.
yeah, I mean, I think
It's
that
more like
because of the-
remediation
Yeah,
because
it
you've got
is. It's-
asbestos.
These are not like,
And the asbestos.
these are not
removal,
aesthetic
which is
updates.
really-
Yes, these are like
So maybe we
structural
should say
and like
cause-
environmental issues that they need to reconcile.
Yeah,
So
that's
yes, the facade, but
more.
like,
I would put it lower because honestly, I don't even know who owns it. All the city databases say unavailable owner, which is
Not
really
a-
weird.
Yeah, I was just checking that.
Oh, door facade.
What?
Well,
I think.
renovation
Yeah, let's do like
and asbestos removal.
Yeah.
Asbestos is really important
It is
because
important.
that can poison clients.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
555 room, which I don't see any owner. I can't tell who owns it. Anyway.
Okay, we've got it at number 4.
Sorry, let me go back.
It is also, look, it's the one human services
It's the
item
only
up
item,
there.
yeah.
Do we want to put it that far down?
Yeah.
Well, then, no, let's,
Okay, so after this, I have parks, TNT schools. And then,
yeah.
so TNT schools. Are there any other shifts to this list in terms of order?
Capital priorities, not, is this capital expense?
Just
Only capital, we're still on the first one,
From these-
I know, but at the top it says capital expense.
Oh, capital priorities.
priorities, yeah.
Typo. Okay. Any comments, changes, or is this good?
Any, going once, going twice? Oh, I'm sorry, Chanel, go ahead.
You're muted.
We can't hear you, Chanel, you're still muted.
Sorry. I'm not concerned with the order. I just want to know when the right moment is to speak about what we're speaking about before with respect to the Toledo site.
Go ahead. Because we want to finalize this list so we can go to expenses.
Okay. I would like to renew my proposal.
Okay, I'm
Which is to
sorry.
include the building and the preservation of the programs within it.
Second.
In addition to
Preservation, okay, if you're doing preservation of the building, then that is a landmarks. You're adding that as a landmarks item.
No, the problem here is Landmarks doesn't have any money. It doesn't preserve buildings itself. That has to come from the owner of the building, which is Parks. That's why this is the right place for it.
To thread this needle, if we go back to the list, right, which, whatever.
Share it again. I will share.
Sorry.
Right, but
So the preservation of the pool and the mural, as I said before, is absent because they can't independently exist at the moment.
Right.
I'm just pointing this out, that in order to have the pool, unless they're taking it out and building separate infrastructure for it at the moment, it's all in basement, right, or whatever. So
Right.
I'm just saying, it's tied.
You're basically suggesting what we preserve Dapolito Center as a rec center or as a building?
We're asking to preserve the pool,
Well, he's,
using the word preserve,
right.
then it includes the building. If we're asking for it to be rebuilt, that is when infrastructure can be separated from it. I'm just pointing this out. These are just distinct.
What does the reso say?
So we're asking to preserve the pool, then if you're asking to preserve the pool, then that inherently means the building.
Right.
As well. But if you're asking for a new pool to be built at the same location,
That's different.
That's a different request. So those are two separate things, and I don't think you can mix them because that's not very clear either. And obviously, this is a hot button issue. So we just have to be clear what we're.
It's
Well,
very,
in this case, it's as with the building, it's a question of how extensive the redoing is. Do you keep the hole and reline it, or do you mend what's there? And that's something we can't know or decide even.
Okay, look
And
at
what we
what,
want is the pool to end up being a pool that's.
Look at
how she's now, how.
everybody look on your screens. I'm gonna highlight it in, I don't know, I'm gonna highlight it in yellow. At Dapolito, A, preserve outdoor pool A, preserve outdoor pool, B, preserve Keith Haring mural, and C, preserve building for public use. I mean.
And I want to
And if you have a
again say that
comment,
I feel
give
that
me a
we should
change.
add programming into it.
That's expense.
Based
That's an
on-
expense. That's a separate item.
Mar, you had a specific
Oh, I
comment.
understand. Okay. Then
That will be an item when we get to the expense list, then they can address that.
I just wanted to speak to what Chanel said about,
I'm sorry, I don't think it is a separate item because the building's interior built for a public use could be entirely unsuitable to a recreation center.
What did our resolution say? Did it say public use or did it say rec center?
Civic use.
Civic use. Our resolution said civic use. So I don't feel comfortable saying something else.
Okay, I'm saying that this is throwing out a potential opportunity over some technicality of the calendar when we have ample testimony from the public concerning this.
But our
And how
resolution,
one
should
can-
we be sticking with our
can
resolution?
think anything but that the testimony from that meeting is going to turn into some sort of endorsement of a recreation center in the building where it's always been is folly and is.
I think we're playing with.
You guys, this is a
In the sense, turning
I'm
our
sorry, I
back
think
on
we're
what the
splitting
public
hairs
is
at this
doing.
point.
Well,
Yeah.
and the reason the civic use was put in there was to ensure that the building wasn't sold. It was not, and again, it has been a recreation center. It even says in the reso, which I'm looking at right now, that it's supposed to be fixed.
Is that in the whereas or therefore be it resolved?
Exactly.
That's in the whereases.
Civic use could be government office, school, fire department.
Housing.
Civic use in a manner
I wish
consistent.
we could think about
historic
the
use,
purpose
something like
and,
that.
and what we are here about instead of some technicality of what is in a resolution at this moment for this purpose.
You don't have a reso that says it's not a recreation center. I mean, that's what it is right today. It's sort of weird. It's like recreation.
How about, yeah,
What it is.
the reality is whatever happens with Dapolito is not gonna be determined by what we write on this line item. It will be, the fact that it's number 5 means it's important and we'll have lots of future meetings. And it'll drive the agenda for our elected officials.
If we want to say something more, then that's going to be as in the next resolution that, flows from a meeting. It's not, she's right. It's not going to come from this. It's going to come from something that is more thought out.
can we just call it, so civic use is group 3 and 4, right? So that's public assembly, that covers religious institutions. Oddly, it covers, that's mentioned in the zoning regulations. Recreation, similar group activities, educational, and health. So I think we're safe to stick with the resolution's language of civic use because it keeps with the zoning, and that's the point.
Yes, Frederica.
Is the door facade actually more important than number 5?
No, probably.
You're proposing that we switch the order?
Well, I'm asking, yeah.
Well, that's your proposing. Does everyone agree with that? I agree.
I agree.
Okay, that is a done. Don't worry the number.
It's on the list, so they can never say you didn't need to put it on your list, so it must not have been.
Right.
I will say that I'm satisfied that the building is in the proposal. And I think it was Susan who just said there'd be more on this, whoever said it.
Why don't we just have C, preserve the building, period?
Or civic use.
Because the pool and Keith Haring are not part of the building, so it's important to specifically note this.
What, preserve the building? I mean, if you preserve the building, you're preserving the building.
We've always referred to them in several resolutions and not with one resolution as the building, the mural, and the swimming.
Because you can preserve the mural without preserving the building.
So that it's one thing.
But you could preserve the building for luxury housing.
You guys, does anyone not agree with preserving the pool, the mural, or the building? Because otherwise we should move on because we're just wordsmithing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we, and we're okay with this order?
Leave it this way.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And we've got 16 items.
Yes, okay.
I think that's good. Okay, let's do expenses.
Number 1 was human services.
Okay, human services. We've got our intensive mobile treatment team.
And how many can we list for expense?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't.
I know, but we did last year, at some point, we just started doing them pro rata.
Right.
By committee.
Right.
Does make them happy.
Okay, so let's put the top 3 expense from each one, and then we'll add the rest depending on spaces. Support bridging the Red Door Place program.
Can I suggest, can I suggest that as we put them in by committee, I do it pro rata, so we don't have to,
Okay.
so we have them all grouped.
Okay.
If that's okay.
That's okay.
So. Parks, the number 1 is.
The dog parks.
Dog parks.
And dog runs.
And then schools is reduce class size.
Hiring teachers.
TNT was Petrosino Square study.
Outdoor dining.
Was grant.
Architectural services.
William has his hand, Will has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Will, go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, no, that's all right. So we didn't have any capital in our committee, but I think Erica and I both feel very strongly about our top 2 being near the top. Again, the resiliency study, this is a long-term existential issue. I want to just keep it on people's radar. Nothing is really happening, it seems. The Army Corps study hasn't really moved. And nobody's really proposed any sort of alternatives or even looked at it to what they put out in terms of just the wall. So I think that needs to be on people's radar. The second one, just to call it out, is further study on trash containerization. We had DSNY present at our meeting this month. There are a lot of issues in our district, given the particulars of our streetscape, very narrow sidewalks, historic blocks. It's clear that, the current program doesn't really work as a one-size-fits-all. And, you know, many issues were raised, very valid ones by community members at the meeting. And so I think that's pretty important. And I'm sure we're not the only district dealing with that, but we're certainly one where more work needs to be done. So whether it's, you know, what they're doing in the pilot in Harlem, where you're having larger bins on a block, whether there's other alternatives, whether there's exceptions for, you know, places that literally can't fit bins on the sidewalk. That's going to start to be an issue for people very soon, because that's literally coming to effect right now.
Will? Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Will, looking at the list, seems like the number 1 and number 3 are very similar. They're dealing with the green infrastructure.
You can move the green infrastructure down. That's not specific to West Side Resiliency, so I would move up actually the compost one, which is our number 3, above the green infrastructure. Sorry, the compost was our number 4. I would move that up.
Okay. Do we have something from each committee to start with our top 10?
I'm coming back.
Okay.
I do think we should just, even though the whatever this is called, that was sent out.
Oh, the survey.
We should just look with a lens to that, because while it's not particularly representative, it does highlight some of the issues, and we should.
Well, it may not be statistically, you know, reliable, but it does, you're right, it does give us a sense. I mean, what have we got in here?
Question, Will, for the composting, the NYC smart bins, you want to study to see if they're relevant, or you want to add more? So I'm not sure which.
Well, I could kind of go either way on that. I mean, it's unclear. Like right now, clearly people love them, right? And you're getting a lot of use. It's a bit unclear to me, once they roll out the full curbside composting, how use of those bins will be impacted. And so that's why I had put it as a study, because I do think there's a chance people use them less. But right now we're hearing that there's a lot of support for them. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to us necessarily just saying we want to continue funding them.
Just out of curiosity, well, doesn't the composting here go into effect for buildings under 9 units and under on November 9th?
Yeah.
So it seems like that has to do more with the big buildings, right? That might not have.
Well, I listened to, I don't know why Brian Lair picked somebody from the New York Times versus Department of Sanitation to talk about the new composting law. And this woman covers this. She was horrible. She couldn't answer most of the questions. But it tells you how complicated this composting program is. And, you know, I live in a self-managed building. There is no way I'm cleaning out a giant composting bin once a week. I'm going to schlep my stuff to the NYC smart bins.
But you're right, but if you put in a big liner in the composting bin, it's the same thing, right? Discussing this, and it's the same little bags that go into it from everybody's apartments.
And what I heard on Brian Lair, whether it's true or not, is that they won't take the bag. So you can either wash the bin or wash the bag or replace the bag.
I mean, we heard some people in the meeting who were living in.
I can't hear if he's talking. I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Will.
No, I'm just saying we heard some other folks speak in the meeting who are in smaller buildings who will now, you know, have the ability to use curbside composting. But even some of them said, look, I prefer to just keep using the smart bin. It's a simpler solution. Again, I don't know what
I see you, Katie. I see you please go next. Go ahead, Katie. Go ahead, Katie.
I listened to one of the official Zooms that they had on this from, I guess, the Department of Sanitation. And, you know, the corner bins, you're supposed to put your banana peel in if you're walking by. You're not supposed to put it now, you know, you're not supposed to put your banana
No,
peel.
that's not correct. That's
So
incorrect.
they're going to
That's
keep
not
them.
correct.
They're
But
going to
please,
keep them.
let her finish.
They're going to keep them. They're going to keep them for sure because it's you know, there's a need for them. And I just wanted to be sure. And there's a grace period, Carter. I don't know if you knew that. There's a law, April 25th. Does that sound right to you, Will? Did you hear that, Will?
Yeah,
Until April,
there's a grace
there's a
period,
grace
yeah.
period.
And I mean, look, they said as well, like, they want to make sure the building's making an effort, right? So like if a few like oranges go into the regular trash, but the building's making it easy for folks to compost, they said, you know, they're theoretically not gonna like fine people for that.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? We've got. Oh, go ahead.
Would
Go
the
ahead.
benches be a capital expense?
Depends on how much, they have no duration, but it depends on the expense. And, okay, we've got 18 here so far. In terms of our, well, wait a minute. We don't have a top 10 for expense yet, right? We don't.
Why don't you go for it?
But I'm saying, okay, looking at what's already up there, probably our top 10 will come from that. So the question is,
You got the numbers.
the question is, are there any that are in that top 10 or top 12 that you want to move up or move down? So that at least we sort of lock that in because those are the ones that are going to get the most attention.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is study skateboarders? What does that mean?
You were both asking the same thing.
Oh, it's a typo, you guys, relax.
It's a tough audience here.
It's seeking locations where they can do skateboarding. Skate parks.
Skate park. Located, yeah.
What is the goal?
The goal is to find space for.
So they're not they don't endanger.
They have space. It's called Washington Square Park, Garibaldi Plaza. They've been there for 30 years, 40 years.
Except it's not an actual skate park.
I know. So we're doing a study to find space for skateboarders to congregate. Is that the ask? Because that's clear.
It was on the list, so I guess it's an ask,
Committee.
but it's a Parks Committee ask.
So I'd love to hear the language around that.
Okay, Shirley?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to add another item from.
Okay, first, okay, why don't you first explain the one that she is asking about, which is the study for the skate.
That would be Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, my mistake. I'm sorry.
The wording was allow funds to determine where to locate a place for skateboarders
Yeah.
to congregate and skate. Since they're not supposed to utilize open space, they're currently using at Washington Square Park. So it wasn't studying the actual skateboarders themselves. Just looking to find a place for them. Other than, you know, the ones that exist.
Other than helter skelter.
That wording.
No, I don't, this is just a list.
So wouldn't it make sense to instead ask for, like a survey or allocate funds to find appropriate space to accommodate skateboarding?
Well, I think that's what I think.
Okay, we're doing two things. We're ranking them, but you can give the comments for how it's specifically worded to Rich.
Well, I
So we're just ranking them.
Yeah, now that we.
But we need to know what we're ranking.
Yeah.
That's what was unclear.
Yeah.
Yes, Shirley.
Oh, yeah, so I would like to add, let me see what number it was, but I think it's pretty important. Yeah, number 4, the installation of traffic light and crosswalk.
But it may be coming,
Across Alston at Worcester. And the reason being that it's the
I'll do
only
them for.
intersection that doesn't have any kind of traffic control there. And it's quite dangerous.
I'll do another round. Hold on.
it's coming because she's doing them by each one. That's why. It's not, we're not excluding anything that's on, probably all of these can make the list if we have 40 slots, but.
I mean, it's been asked for a long time. It's really dangerous.
But going back to, how do people feel about that top 10?
I have my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Patricia, I'm sorry. Go
I'd
ahead.
like to have NYC men teach in the top 10. It doesn't have to be in the top 3, but in the top 10 somewhere.
Okay, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone?
Can we top 10, the trash containerization one? What exactly what are we doing with that?
They just implemented.
That,
I mean, did we just get a whole bunch of new containers?
no, no.
Okay, wait.
No, it's, so at our meeting, we had, we heard from a lot of folks in the community about how the new sort of one size fits all containerization rules don't really fit our district because of narrow sidewalks, unique streetscapes, historic aspect of the district. And so right now, there's been no study that looks at kind of these unique neighborhood features. And so folks are literally, they don't know how to comply with the law because they're forced to put stuff on the curb and then there's no room for pedestrian right of way. And so there's various alternatives like block level large containers, which are being tested in Harlem, I believe, right now and other places. And perhaps there's other alternatives. So it's triggered by the fact that all these rules are coming into place without really the on the ground details having been studied. So it's starting to affect people right now. It's not just saying, oh, we want more containers. It's a specific look that is more nuanced at what the container options could be.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yes, Eugene.
Yes, so this is for Janine. I think the priorities, we didn't sort them by priority on our list for our expense budget priorities, but in land use, we had the study for the Hudson Square rezoning. That should be above the.
Can you just give me the new order instead of 1, 2, 3, 4? Give me the new numbers.
Sure, it's 3, 1, 2, 4.
Government-owned properties is 1. That already exists.
No. 3 is.
Is 1 Hudson Square or is 1 government-owned properties?
1 should be Hudson Square.
Okay, got it. And 2 is, what is 2 then?
2 should be the one you have up there, which is the rent stabilized rent controlled unit.
3?
3 should be the government-owned properties.
And 4 is that one. Okay. Got it.
4 is the loft board.
Excuse me, Eugene, did you want the government owned there or did you want to take government owned out and put in the loft board?
You want to put in loft board
Well,
above?
I'm asking you. I thought you had said that the government owned properties was out.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Loft board should be above government owned properties. Sorry.
So who had their hand up? Katie, did you have your hand up?
Put it down.
Oh, you put it down.
I'm sorry, I don't see lockboard on this list.
Should be number 4.
It's fund a report of units successfully converted from commercial manufacturing. Okay, got it. I'm sorry. And that should be.
I mean, that can be, you can foil that information.
So why don't we just foil it?
Same with the.
Yeah, that's. How many more left do we have?
I was just putting them pro rata. So, okay, we had Patricia asked for top 10.
Definitely.
So I'm just gonna move that. Is there anything in top, what's now, we need to pull 2 out of top 10 to move them lower?
I have a question. What is dog parks? We're identifying space for dog parks the same way we're identifying space for skateboarders? So maybe we should change the language around skateboarders, and I feel like there are 1 million dog parks here in our district. Like,
Not if you're a dog owner.
yeah, but it's in space. This is space that could be used for other things, it's not keeping the dogs off the sidewalks. It's not keeping them out of public space that humans need to walk. It's not because there aren't enough of them, because there are tons of them. Maybe the disconnect is the cost of joining some of the private ones. Maybe what we're asking for is that they should all be public. Or maybe we're asking that every park has a certain amount of space. I mean, there needs to be more regulation around these. I'm yelling so that the people can hear me back there, sorry.
And dog parks should definitely not be our top 3.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna move that down.
It's only one private dog run in CB2 now.
Yeah, I
The other
feel
one
like
is
they're
closed.
everywhere. Like there's one everywhere I go.
West 12 closed.
No, there's one down the road.
Oh, for the
Private dog.
hotel, but that's on private property.
It's, just on,
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
See,
hotel one. No, it's not. You're right. I know the one you're talking about. Right? But those are private.
one here. The one in,
Yeah, but that's also private property. The other one was on public property.
How do we feel about our top 10?
I don't know why I asked for about 30 years.
It's all.
Located.
It was on.
I mean, actually, should there be a bunch more along Hudson River?
Used to be out.
Or something.
Yeah, but there could be more. I mean, that's terrific space. And they're all there already.
Yeah, we should really investigate that. Oh, that's what we're asking for. Look at that. Maybe.
Okay, here's our top 10, you guys.
Yeah.
Mobile treatment, Hudson Waterfront Resiliency Study, and these are just abbreviations. This is not how it's fully written up. Dollars to reduce class size. Petrosino Square study, so we have a TNT, outdoor dining, men teach, study trash containerization, study effectiveness of Hudson Square, a second human services for the Red Door, and space for skateboarders.
Okay. Yes.
Anyone?
Please.
Can we shift up the House and Street light above the skateboarders?
Yeah, I'm not.
Are you? Okay, so,
I like, you got the question, what house?
I mean, without a space for I like to put safety first. Somebody will get hit at, West Houston and,
It's not that we love the skateboarders, that we like to be safe, yeah.
yeah, and then a skateboarder hits somebody and it will be,
Yes, Katie, go ahead.
I just was hoping that landmarks could get into the top 10 because they don't have any other requests. It's so important in our community. I know we ask year after year, but somehow it seems very important for us.
The truth is that asking for that kind of things like enforcement, which is hiring people, doesn't that really rise to a level? It's a big ticket item, isn't it?
it's like how we fund
Is it
it.
really, I mean, it feels like an expense, but is it really dollar wise?
Well, no, it is an expense because you're hiring a person. And every year that various boards have asked for that, the agency says we don't want it. So that's the tough stuff.
Which disincentivizes
That
keeping
doesn't
it
mean you
high.
can't ask for it.
No, it's not to say that we take it off the list, but you don't put it in the top 10 when you have things that are more likely to be acted on.
Yeah, too bad.
I mean, right now, it's number 12. It's not bad. Are we comfortable with the top 10 right now? And then the top 15?
I feel like the smart bins are gonna be outdated by the time it gets there. So like, how do you future with?
According to my friend who I spoke to about the composting and the smart bins, because I was asking I was like, how come there's no smart bins in Soho? And there's one, and there aren't. There's one on the far east and the far west side, just outside the boundaries. And there's a lot of small buildings there. And, that's where I got the 5,700, and you ask your council member for money. Someone else. Per bin. I also said they're not sure if they're gonna keep them forever because of this composting program. But I think nothing's based on, I don't know what the disconnect is, but the numbers seem pretty huge, that the capacity for dealing with composting is here. And if everybody in the city composts, we need this much capacity.
That was crazy.
It's an insane disconnect. So there's a lot of stuff that I think is gonna be changing.
Maybe
I don't know what
a little that ask for that.
is to what.
Reframing it, because I think, who knows how much small buildings generate in composting?
Well, it depends on how much you cook.
No, right, but what.
Does depend on who lives there.
It may be better to have a double-sized smart bin and people use that on the block instead of.
The one on Bleecker in Lafayette or Bond in Lafayette is often filled.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like.
Well, that's the whole reason we're asking for a study, but we don't know. Yeah.
But there will be no need by then. Because each building will have to do it. That's what I'm just saying with the request. Maybe it's a supplementary of some sort of, if a building.
Cook one meal and
But if
fill
each
up.
building is,
And I'm not keeping that in my apartment. I'm getting it out as soon as I can.
yeah, I was gonna say, even though each certain buildings are gonna be required to do it, like individuals in those buildings may still choose to go to the smart bins. I think that's part of it.
Those plastic bags. People.
City service.
Have compost concierges that come do private garden.
Concierge, I like that. No. I mean, I think doesn't it all depend on, is there something below it that you want to move up? I mean, I'm not saying we should take it off, it's all a question of. Okay, so if we're okay with our top 10, are we okay with our top 15? And move as we go down the list, are there any that are really feel like they're just too far down the list?
One of the things that's not addressed on here, that's just on the list, is sort of more of the public safety type.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What would that?
That's.
I don't know, but that's this is what the community's talking about, so.
It can be an ask from the executive committee. It doesn't have, nobody says that we can't ask.
I'm just saying it's important for us to reflect the community.
Okay, and how do we phrase that?
Well, I'm not sure, but I'm just.
That's the trouble, that's.
Well, we
how do
heard at the 6th precinct meeting that their budget is down. I'm not gonna remember the numbers.
No.
The personnel.
It was like huge.
It was like down by half.
Yeah.
Something, and they basically need more funding to deal with the crime and that the quality of life related crimes happening within Washington Square Park and by the West 4th Street subway. I mean, there were 150 people in the room really upset about that. And the reality is resources are allocated from NYPD based on murders and much worse crimes. And that is.
The trouble is that, yeah.
Yeah, we're not enough people are getting.
We're not hurting enough people. We're not, killing enough people.
It's a sad statement, but I'm just saying.
It's true.
So the quality of life aspect, let's just shift a little bit to that, right? in Washington Square Park. I mean, what about the PEP officers? I mean, nobody's saying they're super effective, but what about having them? You know, that's a way to respond to some of those concerns is by having them there for the full time the park's open. Don't they
That's
leave at certain time?
that's a concrete ask.
You know, that's something that reflects.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what would that one be? How would you?
More PEP officers or greater time coverage of PEP officers.
Yeah, greater time coverage.
Right.
I think that should be,
Police gets really dangerous. In terms of, you don't want to step on the police. So it's the police and you don't want to put these guys in positions.
I mean, we have to have something to respond to that concern, and
It's the.
what would we pull out of the top 10, 4 through 10?
It's secondary. If you can't figure out.
just needs to be on the top somewhere. Just needs to be on.
So it's a top 12, you know, well, it should be higher than that.
Could we can move trash containerization, because that's already happening, and that, I mean, I'm just gonna throw that out. I know you might not like that, Will.
So what I hear at those meetings is it's quality of life issues, right? I don't hear, it's drug use and quality of life issues. And am I wrong on that? I mean, that's.
Yeah, and it's PEP in the park
So-
and NYPD outside the park.
It's labeled quality of life, but the fear that I heard coming out of the voices, you know, the people, the residents who showed up, this is not about people playing loud music as a quality of life. This is fear for their physical safety, like, and their children on their doorsteps. So it kind of doesn't, in a way, it feels like its own category.
So the reason that I think there's a disconnect is because they've decriminalized a lot of drug use related things, which are unfortunately are what people visibly see. And you know, and that's the trouble of people not accepting services. It ties into the other aspects, but there's people, you know, we also heard at the precincts that, you know, there's only a couple sector cars working on any tour, and, you know, the response times and what's an emergency, what's not.
Of course.
You know, and this is a lot of small things that and while yes, the NYPD allocates their resources across the city according to this higher need.
That is nice.
It's becoming an issue here that I personally see in my local CVS, people going in and out. And people aren't paying for things, you know, it's like there's a lot of small things, but how do you frame that? Because I think they call NYPD when they have that problem. They don't call health services.
Of course not.
It ties in that it is an NYPD issue.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And it's not an index crime.
So I threw in
So-
suggestions.
Okay, Patricia has her hand up, so go ahead.
I was at that same meeting and the police officer said that we're in the top 10 precincts that are safe. So what you're saying should be in the top 10, but I mean, they said that whenever they get new officers, they put them elsewhere. They're not in our neighborhood.
But what's determined to
Because
be
they're
safe?
index crimes.
Yeah, that's the thing, is safe depends on when murders and rapes and armed robberies, sure. But people are also saying, I'm not safe because addicts are coming up to them and threatening them, and, you know, that too is, you're right, it all depends on how you define what safe is.
And also is physical.
Sounds like a study.
Just because,
I'm sorry.
My block has said that somebody came up to him and punched him.
Exactly.
So there is physical
Danger.
fear and danger.
Okay, we've got Janine has.
I threw out some ideas.
Some ideas. For concrete, okay, we've got PEP officers and staff, precinct staff.
That's only for the 6th precinct.
Only for, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
So, and Patricia, just the reason I was raising this is that if you look at the survey that was done for the community board, I mean, it's the crime and public safety and quality of life issues are both 45 percent and above is the top.
Say that there are very organized groups, very focused specifically on crime in a small pocket of this neighborhood who organized around this survey.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
Again, it's always the matter of people being engaged and who are we engaging and how are we, are these results, accurate? Have we really gone into every pocket of this community and talked to every different group of people? Or are we, as we often do, just hearing from and listening to the loudest, best resource groups?
And I would say there's some truth to that, because when I read the comments, it sounded like attending that meeting all over again,
right?
Including the lady who hates the parades.
I mean, I see
To be
every-
fair, that's what
in our local
happens.
CBS, I go in there every other time, I see somebody walking out stealing.
I know,
So, I mean, that's what people are talking about.
but we're not gonna solve that.
We're not gonna.
But it is.
And you have your hand up. I want.
No, I think.
a concern,
You're okay?
And that's what people are saying.
I'm speaking from the list, I would be reluctant to support actively funding for the sixth precinct.
Yeah, I pulled that up.
Yeah, you removed
That's
it, and
also
so I
never
feel
gonna
like
happen
I'm
because
okay now.
that's a totally,
But just,
that's
that was
not
my
something we could fund directly anyway. It's not a,
Sourceware.
yeah. I'm sorry, Valerie, go
Can we
ahead.
call the question on this so we can move on to reports?
Well,
Do we want to do anything with PEP officers or?
okay, so the
Maybe
question.
we put it down here. Maybe we just put it at the end. It didn't come up at any of our meetings. So.
And we'll just look, it's an exec committee ask then. Something, and put it that, or you want to put it as a parks. If you don't, then it's our ask.
Yeah, I think I like.
It's just,
Broader than farms.
it's just that it's
Issue, it's what it is, I mean,
it is what it is.
It's not sidewalks.
Are we,
Exam responses survey. Okay, we, that's already brought us down. We don't have to go to 40. Is there any more that?
No, we can just add that, Mark can add that.
Yes.
how is the board voting on these? Is it gonna be associated with the committee of CB2 or with the agency the request is being made of?
It'll just be by the number.
Right.
Okay.
With this column
And
with
the-
committee will be taken
Okay.
off. The committee
I just
column
couldn't
was just
remember.
for reference
Right.
purposes.
Right.
So we prorated to them a little
Right.
bit.
Okay, any more moving these around, any more changes? Otherwise, it looks like we've got ourselves. And anything that remains on these, the expenses at the bottom, Mark will just add on because after a certain point, they're just there to show that we're acknowledging them.
And is there is the district needs statement draft a master that we can go in and edit, saying COVID-19 and outdoor dining, I have an update for some of that stuff. So is there a master version or
So
Google
in
Doc?
Google Drive, there is a tab for narrative statements by category. Please don't overlook the one that says the overview of the whole district. And then there's one for the categories that the portal at DCP groups things in, which sometimes is not exactly aligned with our committee structure.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, I think we've got ourselves a priorities list for expenses. Yay! Oh, that's right.
I'm gonna.
The top three, we.
Oh, our top three.
Our top three are.
Um,
Wait a minute, where's my list? We're going to have, are we doing, what do we got? Where did I look with my papers? Sorry.
Have our top three from capital expenses.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull
Yeah.
them out. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Are you guys muted?
Has the room gone on mute?
Sounds like it.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes, now we can.
You know what? This intensive mobile team one frankly addresses the quality of life issue that we were talking about. The intense mobile
Yeah, no
team.
question.
So I think, okay, so is this what we wanted for our top three?
It looks pretty good. Anybody particularly unhappy with that?
Only get one list of top three
Right.
expense or capital.
That's right. Any objections? Otherwise, I think we have a top three. So we've got a top three, and then we've got our lists, our ranked lists of both expenses and capital.
Yeah.
If we're
Can
done.
we, can I just ask, can we pull the dollars for more PEP officers in Washington Square Park? Is that needed really? Is that needed considering our top one is intensive mobile treatment team?
It's far enough down the
Okay,
list.
fair enough. Okay, fine.
It's not like we're taking away a high priority.
I think it should be expand the hours, not more of them.
I think they,
I'll call you back in 10, okay?
they've done lots of stuff. Funded by the service.
I mean, I don't always see it, but
They always want to be in repairs.
Well, you could put it as more / extended, I mean, in the sense of how though whoever's responsible for implementing it determines, I mean, in the sense of, do you want more bodies or you want more hours of the number that you've got?
I think it's 4 hours in the summer.
I will call you back.
Still then, you just standing.
I know. But we're done.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna send, Mark, it's Excel. Is that okay with you?
okay.
Okay.
Okay, we've got our standing committee reports. I know, of course, I don't have to encourage everybody to be brief. So let's just go through the list and ask does cannabis have a report?
I have some more suggestions I'm gonna email. I'll send you. Thanks for your patience.
Okay.
Can we have-
Student Services has a report.
Yes. When we met to discuss our budget priorities and these statements, we also developed a resolution voicing support for organizations, service providers in the neighborhood that we routinely give support to, meet with, get updates from. And the realization was that we didn't have a record anywhere that these were organizations that we knew interfaced with and supported generally in terms of mission and operations. So that is the nature of that resolution.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Land use, is there a report?
We just had a report on the budget priorities. That's all.
Okay. Landmarks, does Landmarks have a report? Russ?
We had 2 meetings and I think Chanel is on. We had 2 meetings. Renzo was on 5 in the first meeting,
Oh, turn it off 1 second. Let me be
and
sure.
5 in the second meeting. Of course, the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Parks, anything to say? Awesome. Schools have anything to report
Yes.
on?
Yes, we have one resolution.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Please.
We heard from Brad Holman Siegel's legislative aid about the New York State Senate Bill 8298 about insurance coverage for neuropsych exams for dyslexia. The bill, which it's passed the Senate and Assembly, and it's just waiting for the governor's signature, and our committee voted in support for it. So that's what it's about, basically.
Great, thank you. Outdoor dining.
Sure. Hi, Outdoor Dining Working Group. We have 6 applications across 4 applicants to vote on at this Thursday's meeting. All applications are in the West Village. We have 3 applications for our November meeting so far. And in total, we have had 18 Dining Out NYC applications, 11 referred to us. There are several hundred more in the queue. But we have had 18 referred to us from DOT to date. That's 11 sidewalk cafes, 7 roadway cafes. We continue to see errors from the agency, including incorrect deadlines on the applications. And our number one issue is inaccurate site plans, which cause the applicant delay, even though they have saved money by not hiring an architect. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. SLA.
SLA, we had 9 applications we heard in each committee. Both committees met this month. Let's see, in SLA 1, there was 1 applicant that came for 2 locations within a block of each other. One was previously licensed with a lot of complaints from the community. The other one was a previously unlicensed space, both small. The unlicensed one was very tiny. The applicant questionnaire stated a 1 a.m. closing, but at the meeting that the applicant stated its closing time was 11. He agreed to 11 as his stated closing time. And then following the meeting, when he was given stipulations, he would not sign either of them. So those 2 will be denials. That's the thing on that one. And then there's a Bar 13, well, previously was known as Bar 13 at 35 East 13th Street. That's a denial from SLA 2. It's like a club thing that neighbors have complained about for years. They use a rooftop. The committee recommended denial of that unless they would remove the rooftop. They're not removing the rooftop since it was first licensed. There are a lot of residential buildings that have been put up around there that are much taller than that. So it was always got a lot of complaints anyway and has violations against it, some of which will be heard at the Liquor Authority's full board this upcoming month. But yeah, so there's taller buildings and everything. It just makes it even more impactful for the people around there. The only other thing I just want to mention is with the change up at the SLA that applicants can file their application at the same time as their 30-day notice, where before they used to have to wait 30 days before filing. The Liquor Authority will not take action on the application for 30 days, but after that 30 days hits, they are ready to start taking action. So we've lost that 30-day buffer zone and are starting to have an issue with the little week to 2 weeks of cutoff time of when we close out the 30-day notices to be put on this month's agenda for the next month's agenda. And so some of those that fall in between are starting to be problematic where they get pushed for another month, but the applicant has already filed their application and they're being called up for their 500-foot hearings or getting a temporary license, and we have not heard the application and the board does not have a recommendation to offer. So we are asking them to extend those, and I'm keeping track of it to see how often this happens. That's it.
Thank you. Street activities, Will.
I think Erica made.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's in another meeting.
You just,
He's double meeting. Am I close enough to the thing?
You certainly are.
We already talked about the composting stuff, but Marissa Yanni came from DSNY, started October 6th.
Compost should be put out in 55 gallons or less, same day as trash. Anything that you eat or comes out of the ground, not allowed personal hygiene, diapers, animal waste. That's not as clear as some people think.
Yeah.
They did say to use large plastic liners or even use individual plastic bags to hold the compost. Everyone was very curious if the plastic will be removed by DSNY. It will be. And they were very nice. It's a learning curve for everyone. Food scrap enforcement is not going to begin until spring of 2025. And as Will said, the priority for DSNY is to see building management providing solutions for tenants. They're not like ripping apart people's trash. The end product does go back to the schools in fertilizer form. And we talked about, the community had a lot of questions about the orange smart bins. We talked about that. And then containerized trash was the second thing. Commercial fines are increasing starting in December for repeat offenders. Currently, obviously, it's required for buildings with 1 to 9 residential units. The DSNY is very aware of the bin storage challenges in our district, hence the study that we want to do. I think we landed at number 7. Like Will said, they're doing the trial period of the street in Harlem, so we're very curious on that. Mark sent an update. There's a public hearing about an expansion of it, so we're gonna share that at the next meeting. And there's no solution to date for the spatial conflict of roadbed dining and where DSNY wants the bins put. I have no answer, but they're aware. So that was that. And then we had a big issue this weekend in Soho. Will and I both went down. Jacquemus, right? And the Billie Eilish pop-up were on the same thing. So we spoke with them and we figured out that we now have like the people who are coming to apply are like expediters that the production companies are paying. And so they have no idea. So we get there and we're like, this isn't what you guys basically stick to. And they are like, I don't know who that is. We weren't there. So we're going to figure out how going forward we can strongly recommend that someone from the production company is the person. I think that's it. And we had a J. Crew men's event that was a little bit of a mess. Carter knows all about it.
Really? Oh, yeah, thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. And last but not least, traffic.
We had 2 items. One was the very dangerous corner of Greenwich Avenue and West 10th Street, which we've been trying to get repaired. Terrible tragedy you probably all know about. Lori Kleinman was killed by a turning vehicle. So with some recommendations to improve safety there. Transportation Alternatives presented some of their ideas. We took some of them, didn't take all. And also ended up saying that Greenwich Avenue itself really needs a good study and all-around comprehensive improvements. That was one. The other one was a co-name for this evidently wonderful man who single-handedly revivified McCarthy Square. Endless neighbors came to praise him and to show how thankful they were that he had beautified this place and held events. And yeah, so we approved. And that was it.
Lovely. Thank you.
That was rough.
Any new business? A motion to adjourn? Thank you. Oh, thank you, everyone. See you on Thursday. And we're done.